Evil turned out not to be a grand thing. Not sneering emperors with their world-conquering designs, not cackling demons plotting in the darkness beyond the world. It was small men with their small acts and their small reasons. It was selfishness and carelessness and waste. It was bad luck, incompetence, and stupidity. It was violence divorced from conscience or consequence. It was high ideals even, and low methods. What's up, bookworms? I am Mike, and today we are talking about the 6th book in Joe Abercrombie's The First Law universe, Red Country. Now, there is going to be a slight format change here from my usual book reviews. If this is your first time finding the channel, I explained that all of my book reviews are spoiler heavy, but I did get feedback from constant watchers that folks that want to be sold on these books, so I'm going to start doing a few minutes, just real quick about the beginning of each of these without getting into spoilers. Also, I do the whole Let's Discuss segments that are spoiler-free, but again, all of my book reviews, even with this added new layer, are going to go over key points of the plot. But like I said, the first couple of minutes, you're safe. So if you have not read the first 6 books, because I will reference all the books up to this point, if you've not read the first 6 books in the First Law universe, well, you probably aren't interested in this review and you aren't watching anyway. But if you plan to, watch up until I tell you that spoilers are starting. Bookmark this video and come back after you do so. And with that said, let's get into it. Some non-spoiler thoughts first. Sorry, I got this itch in my ear. I can see why this book is divisive among the fan community of the First Law. It is super slow in large chunks, and it had a lot of characters that you could completely ignore, and the story wouldn't really change. I mean, I had my problems with the heroes, but that book was a freight train compared to this one in terms of pacing. So, I mean, 2 of my favorite characters from previous books return in this story, and one feels like complete character assassination, and the other is honestly quite boring. So if I'm tipping my hand here, I am leaning towards the part of the fandom that has this book ranked lower in the series. I'm going to get into why, so don't shut me off yet. I did not care about the protagonists in this book. If these, do Joe books, do they really have protagonists or antagonists? Okay, what is supposed to be the traditional protagonist in this book, or her siblings? I just didn't care about them. I didn't care about any of the supposed antagonists, really. Really, this whole book is sort of a feeling of indifference from me. And I'm not used to that in a Joe Abercrombie book. I mean, it just seems kind of directionless a lot of the time. And that surprised me quite a bit, because the pacing in Joe's books to me have always been just the way that they should have been. So, I mean, if you've read the whole series, yes, you should read this book. But being an enjoyable standalone adventure, like Best Served Cold or the Heroes, this one is not that. And that's pretty much it for my non-spoiler stuff. I'm pretty sure this review is going to get me banished from the First Law Reddit page, because I know that there's a lot of fans for this one over there. But I will be starting spoilers now. While I didn't like how different the Heroes was for the first 1/3 of that story, I ended up really enjoying it overall the rest of the way. I kept telling myself this book was going to do the same, but I don't feel like it ever really did. I mean, you have Shy South as your protagonist on sort of a revenge rescue tour, and it just feels kind of like a watered-down version of Mansa from Best Served Cold. Yes, I know she's younger, and she's not a mercenary, she's just a farm girl, and who wouldn't root for someone on a quest to rescue their abducted siblings, right? But I mean, I checked out on her real quick. But I think that's more because the big selling point to fans here is that her stepfather turns out to be the previous MIA Logen Ninefingers. And I won't lie, when I first figured out who this was, I had to keep from shouting out loud on the transit home from work. I was very, very excited. As I said after, when I did my reread of Last Argument of Kings, I wanted just like confirmation that he was or alive or dead. Felt like it was very vague, obviously. So we got that, but he's different now, and you can tell he just wanted to live out his days away from war and politics and just kind of have a simple life. But sure enough, killing his friend and abducting his stepchildren that he swore to take care of their mother. He swore to take care of these kids after their mother passed away, and he quickly finds himself returning to the ways of violence. So I mean, that's good for us readers, and it's bad for him, because we want our Logen to be very bloody, right? My problem with Logen in this book And I know that time has passed. And he's much older than in the original trilogy. And he wasn't exactly young in those books either. But if you took maybe the best or the second best character in that trilogy, and you made him boring by not having him be a POV character in this, I feel like I spend more time waiting for him to go Bloody Nine than I do hoping he control it. He can control it, unlike kind of like what I did with the original version. But outside of the bar fight and the duel with Glamma Golden, he's pretty forgettable to me in this book, and I cannot believe that I am saying that. All I wanted was this guy to come back, and now he does, and I'm like, maybe less was more. I don't know if it's that, or maybe just, I don't know. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But he isn't even my biggest problem this go-around with this book. My problem is that Joe spent 3 books before they were hanged, Last Argument Kings, and Best Served Cold, making Nakomo Casca the lovable mercenary. And I feel like this book completely assassinates his character, like completely. Was he an all-around great guy in the previous books? Of course not. Not at all. But in this, he's just basically a shitheel. And for all intents and purposes, he's one step away from being the actual villain of this book. That's not what I wanted at all. And for him to go out like he did, being stabbed by the dude writing his memoirs, that is so weak. That is so weak. And I read right after this, a lot of fans like, every time you think Nakomo's dead, he finds a way to come back. I don't know about that. This seems like this one's pretty hard to get out of, and it would kind of feel like jumping the shark. And plus, he was already pretty old, and I'm not exactly sure about the exact years between this and A Little Hatred. But I'm not sure at this point if he is still alive, if it's going to even matter, because he's going to be like with a walker talking about the glory days, maybe. I don't know. Actually, now that kind of sounds kind of fun. But I said at Best Served Cold that the Casca was elevated to my second favorite character in the series, after Glokta. But at this point, I almost wish he had went out in that blaze of glory fighting Ganmark in Best Served Cold. That was an appropriate ending for him, and I was happy to see him come back. But for this, he's just a shit in this book without any of the lovable aspects that he had previously, and that disappointed me greatly. It never truly feels like the same character to me. It almost feels like Joe wrote this entire story with a secondary villain, and at the end he decided to go through before the final printing and change that character's names to Nakomo Casca just for the final printing. That's just what it felt like to me. It does not feel like the same character whatsoever. And then you get some of the other returning characters. You got Shivers. He's basically reduced to a handful of cameos in this book. And once again, they tease that we're going to get this fight between him and Logen, and it doesn't happen. Friendly is back. He doesn't really do much outside of answering Casca's math questions about how many men he has. Pike, that's Salem Ruse. I feel like he was just there to drop a name that fans would recognize. And I'm pretty sure the unnamed mayor, unless I missed the reveal in the book, I might have zoned out once or twice. I'm pretty sure that's Carlo Dan Eider. She definitely gets around, don't she? The last remaining character, I believe, that returns in this book is Glamma Golden. And I will say I had no idea how much I needed another Logen duel until it was happening in this book. Their fight is fantastic, and I feel like it is where this book peaked. And why do I say this? Because the whole dragon people thing completely fell flat for me. I was so uninvested in Ro and Pit and even Shy. This whole dragon people thing, I just didn't care. Basically, the only new character I even liked was Temple, and even he was kind of forgettable. It was cool to have another Cantic in the story, though. But I've heard lots of feedback that this book was supposed to be a Western, basically. And I guess that makes sense, even up to, sending Logen off into the sunset at the end. It just was not the story that I wanted in a potential Logen return. Feathers got what they wanted out of it, man. That's great. It just didn't click for me. To me, it almost felt like, give a quick comparison. If you haven't seen The Force Awakens by now, guys, I'm sorry. It's been a while. You must have no social media whatsoever. But to me, it almost felt like what I didn't care about with Han Solo in The Force Awakens. I had wondered for years what became of him, what he's been doing all this time, only to find out that the older version of him wasn't quite that exciting. Even if the writer tried to have him perform the same tropes, it just did not land the same. So while I'm not saying this is a bad book. It is by far the bottom of my First Law rankings, and I had zero sense of adventure this go around. The politics, they were where I could care less which side won, and the characters I loved being, the returning characters, they came back boring or completely different than what made me fall in love with them in the first place. But look, I mean, for a book 6 in a universe, this is fine. This is fine. It sort of feels like one of those uneventful Wheel of Time books where you wonder, how the hell did I just read 600 pages and not a lot happened and nothing changed? I think I can safely say Joe is still by far one of my favorite authors working today, and my excitement for the sequel trilogy to the original First Law trilogy, it's as high as it's ever been. This did not demotivate me at all. We're just 2 months away from that now. I'm reading Brent Week's Lightbringer series right now. I'm on book 2, and I'm reading that alongside with this one. I'm sorry. I'm doing like one a month for First Law and Lightbringer leading up to the release. The last Lightbringer book comes out in October. The next First Law book comes out in September. So, I mean, I'm reading those kind of the same time. Like First Law, I made that plan to read one per month. I try to do the same with the Red Rising books, but it just doesn't look like I'm going to have the time. I read the original trilogy of that, but I mean, I didn't even get around to reviews for those. So I am excited that I will be doing Sharp Ends in August. Obviously, that's my last one before Little Hatred. I'm excited because I think that can provide a lot of the backstory, maybe fill in some of those gaps. Some of those random mentions and character conversations throughout the whole series thus far. Also, I believe one of the mods on the First Law Reddit, I believe his name is Flynn Levi. Am I saying that wrong? I don't even know. He reached out to me on Twitter about helping me do a preview video, like a preview and speculation theories kind of thing, an episode of the show leading up to A Little Hatred. So I'll have to check in and see if he's still interested in that, because I definitely want to tackle some of these theories. I'm sure there's plenty I'm not even thinking about. We'd probably start a thread and ask everybody, hey, what do we want to talk about? So, hey, check out the First Law Reddit if you guys haven't. Very, very nice people over there. And like I said, I'm hoping they don't banish me after they find out how much I just kind of didn't care for this book. So look out for those videos soon on the channel. The best way to do that is to help me out by hitting that subscribe button. The channel is growing. We are almost at that first goal of 500 subscribers. Once you get over 500, you can finally get past YouTube's shitty algorithm that won't allow my videos to pop up in a basic search. So that is awesome. Thank you guys so much. And if you like this video, please subscribe. Check out the other content on the channel. I do a book review or a Let's Discuss segment every single week. We do a live show on here once a week where we talk about everything relevant that happened in geek pop culture media over the past week. We're going to talk about Comic-Con this coming up week. The Witcher trailer was really good, by the way. So please hit subscribe, share this with your friends, and I will talk to you guys soon.